Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a Monday morning. We are recording. I'm going to spritz my watercolors real quick so that they're nice and juicy and moist when it comes time later on to use them. Make sure that those are good and ready to go. This is when we pull a toy out of the toy box, a random object out of the Random Object Randomogrifier, and we sketch it as our daily art practice. And you guys are my art buddies that provide the accountability that make me want to jump up out of bed every day at 5:30, run downstairs, turn the cameras on, get started with my day, drawing, sketching, and painting. Good morning. My mom and dad are in the chat room. Good morning, Dad. Good morning, Mom. If you're in the chat room, if you're watching, I would certainly appreciate a shout out. Just a quick hi. Let us know you're there. YouTube gives me a count of all of the people that show up, but they don't give me any personality. And it's sometimes nice to put a font to the name. We don't want to jump in with the details too quick. What we're trying to do right now, you need some details to kind of help you guide where the pieces go. But the whole point right now is just to get the composition. We want to make sure the whole thing fits where I want it to go on the paper. And so we're just trying to put a loose. I could have just drawn a ball and a triangle, and that would have sufficed. But at the same time, I need to make sure that these things are where they're supposed to go on the page. It's not enough to know that they'll fit on the page, that they're going where I'm putting them on the page. And so, taking just a minute here on the composition to make sure that everything goes, that there's room for everything, including the drop shadow that will come later. But now we can move on into the detail stage, adding just a few details here and there, making sure that it looks like that fish. It's not enough to look like a fish. I want it to look like that fish. I want it, when I'm done, I want to hold it up to that fish, and I want you to say, yes, that is indeed that fish. So this is a goldfish from the Safari Pets collection. Highly detailed. I doubt that we put all of the details in it because it's a small drawing and I'm using blunt tools. My kid has a 0.2, this is a 0.5 millimeter pencil, and this pencil is a special kind of pencil that when you press down on the lead to use it, when you lift up, the lead rotates, but I don't ever hold it that way, so I don't ever get the benefit of that. But it's 0.5 millimeter, and my kid has one. My girl too has one that is 0.2 millimeter. Super fine lead, really fun for drawing really small shapes. But it doesn't come in 4B lead, and I use 4B lead because it gives me a dark enough a dark enough mark that you can see it on camera and that I can see it and erase it. My mom is in the chat asking if I spritz the paint. Yes, Mother, I did spritz the paint. To make it juicy. I did indeed. She wasn't able to join us yesterday morning, so my good friend Ivy stepped in to take her place to remind me to spritz the paint. Ivy has a website. What did I drop? I don't know. Couldn't have been important. Ivy has a YouTube channel where she demonstrates coloring techniques in a coloring book, colored pencil techniques, and she does she makes her own, and she does sunflowers, and they're gorgeous. That's not all she does. She does a whole bunch of other stuff. That's just, while I'm sitting here trying to art and talk at the same time, that's all I can think of. I guess I could talk about goldfish. Goldfish were domesticated by the Chinese about 1,000 years ago. Originally domesticated as food because these things get up to 15 inches long. So they were originally domesticated as food. They normally grow 10 to 12 inches long, but they can get up to 15, sometimes even 20 inches long, especially the koi varieties can get much larger. They grow in accordance to the size of their tank. So if you have a very small tank, they won't get very big, but that's really just because you're stunting their growth, and they can have a whole lot of health issues. They need, to start off with, they need about 10 gallons per fish. So if you have 2 of them in your tank, you need to have a 20-gallon tank. They are social, like many fish. They have schools. They don't learn anything in school, like most teenagers. I think they know everything. But they still go to school because it's their only social outlet. But they were originally bred for food, but the Buddhist monks started keeping koi ponds at the temple, and that led to them being used in an ornamental fashion. And so that's when they started being used for decorations. They have a dimorphic sexuality. Males are typically bigger and fatter than the females, but you can't tell that until you know for sure that you have a male next to a female. During mating season, they'll get little white lumps on the front here of their fins, but if it's not mating season, can't really tell what their gender is. And neither can they. They're not friendly with each other outside of mating season. For a tank mate, they actually do better with different kinds of fish. They don't do so well with their own kind because they have such huge needs. They're so hungry. Now some do, the comets do, but this particular one is a fantail. It's the one by far the most popular goldfish kept. By far the most popular goldfish kept. Let's see. Fantails are slow swimmers because of their ornamental tails. Main reason why they don't do well with other goldfish. The competition for food is fierce. And so you need slower swimmers, or you need something that's not quite as hungry, or something that eats in a different area of the tank. But I didn't know. We've kept goldfish for years. I didn't know that they don't do well with plecostomus. Those are the little flat catfish looking things that people put on the bottoms of their tank that eat all the algae and stuff. Goldfish don't, especially fantail goldfish don't do well with those types of fish because they need a cooler tank. Goldfish keep a cooler tank than those fish do. Yeah, my mom's in the chat saying, I never thought about eating goldfish. Well, we never thought about them getting to be 15 inches long either. Sometimes when I use my kneaded eraser at the end of the day, at the end of the show, the kneaded eraser comes out and it's in unique shapes that resemble other things. And I thought it was really interesting how this one came out to look like a subscribe button. I thought that was really interesting. Look at how that looks like a subscribe button. You can almost make the letters out across there where it says subscribe. Anyway, yeah, we don't think about eating goldfish because in our little houses, in our little house tanks, the goldfish are that size. But, you know, when you realize, first of all, the ones that they were working with 1,000 years ago were not bright and pretty and orange like this. They were just carp. Red and yellow, silver carp. And they were just long fish, like koi, but, you know, they were not very ornamental at the time. And so, no, we wouldn't have thought about eating goldfish because they're too small, unless you're in college. Lots of college fraternities used to see how many goldfish they could eat all the time. Let's see. I want this to be more of a yellow-orange, this first coat. And I want lots of water. I have a reason for starting here instead of the shading this time. one, I think the shading's going to take care of itself with the ink. But we'll get back to that. This is going to take multiple layers of orange, and I want to make sure that I get the first one down before we go any further. How are we doing on time? Oh goodness, it's 5:45 already. We're going to have to step this up. I should have been at this page 5 minutes ago. All right. They are the warmer of the cold-blooded species. Fantails specifically are the warmer of the cold water freshwater fish. Goldfish are all cold water freshwater fish, but fantails need it just a little bit warmer. Hang on, let me dry this real quick. Watching paint dry is probably the most exciting part of my day. I mean, it's just fantastic. It's just so innovative. All right, there's that. Now then, let's do this. Just specifically right across there. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take some salt. I think this will help with the scales here in a minute. So we're just going to put a little salt there where the scales are, and then we're going to come back with the shading. Knock out some of that shading there. That's a bit dark. One of the struggles with goldfish is they have a lifespan of, in a tank, of 10 to 12 years. Some of them have been known to live up to 25 years. And their longevity causes problems because people don't know what to do with them. People are trying to be good and not just kill them. And they're looking for humane ways to dispose of them. And so they just take them down to the local pond and let them go. You're free now, little goldfish. Be free. The other thing that happens is people buy them as bait when they're, especially when they're young and small. little shiny fish in the water makes really good bait if you're fishing. And so people go to bait shops and buy goldfish, and then when they're done fishing, rather than take their bait home or dispose of it, they just let it go. They just let it go. And both of those things seem like a really good idea until you remember just how hungry these things are. These goldfish are just really, really very hungry. And because they were domesticated, one of the things they were domesticated for as a food source was to be able to breed quickly. And so they can lay thousands of eggs twice in a mating season. And will outcompete just about any other animal around them for food and resources, causing the native species to struggle and die. And that is a problem. Especially like in the Great Lakes. They're having some issues in the Great Lakes because people do it all the time. People flush their goldfish. And all drains lead to the ocean, right? People flush their goldfish, and their goldfish end up in the drain system. And you end up with goldfish stirring up the bottom, making the water murky for the indigenous species, making it difficult for the plants to grow. Over competing for resources. And just being a general nuisance until they've overpopulated an area and made it impossible for the native species to grow, including the plants, the snails, the mollusks, the clams, because they are omnivores. They'll eat anything on the bottom. And so people just let them go, and it causes problems. So kind of like what we talked about the other day with the iguanas, don't let your plants go. Pets. Don't let your pets go. Don't just take your pets and say, okay, I can't keep you anymore, you're free. Out you go. back in 2023, way back in 2023, we're going to end up having to run that hairdryer one more time. Way back in 2023, People magazine actually did an article about the goldfish that have been released in the Great Lakes area and the problems that it's causing with the native species and the fishing. And the guy, the picture that they use is the guy is holding one the size of a football. It's seriously, it is this big. And they talked about how what they were having to do to take care of that population. And one of the things they're doing to control that population is they are electroshocking the water. They're waiting until mating season. They're waiting until mating season, and then they're electroshocking the water and picking all of the goldfish up out of the water as they float up to the top. And that allows them to at least put some kind of limit on the amount of eggs that make it to the next season. It's not perfect, but it's anything else they do will cause problems with the native fishes. But even in your stocked pond, even if you just have a stocked pond, that stocked pond has an overflow feature, and that overflow feature is connected to a creek, connected to a stream, connected to a river, which gives these things a path back to other people's ponds. That is how fish used to spread to different areas before. Birds would carry them. But mostly they would, during flooding times, they would swim through the channels looking for new sources of food, looking for new unexploited territory that they could get established. And so even putting them in your backyard pond is a bad idea unless you're actually going to actively maintain them and keep them and make sure that they don't escape. I'm not talking about a koi pond. I'm talking about the people who live out in the country with cow ponds. But even pouring them out in there is a bad idea because they will overpopulate your stocked tank. Your stocked pond rather. And the next thing you know, all you're catching are great big carp. Just going to put the finishing touches on this one here because I have got to go to work. It is 6:01, so we're running just a little bit behind today. I I should just put my pins down like a test is over. But I really kind of want to finish this one. Especially considering how close I am to being done with it. Can't talk, farting. Anyway, the point of everything I've said up to this point is don't let your pets go. Don't just decide I can't keep it anymore. I'm going to set it free. Don't pour your bait out into the water. Be responsible with our resources so that they'll still be there the next time you want to go fishing. That, I think, is done. Thunderstorm brewing. My mom says there's a thunderstorm brewing. Yeah, everybody tries to tell me, oh, you shouldn't ride the motorcycle today to work because it's going to rain. And I'm here to tell you that a 95% chance of rain is still a 5% chance of riding. So what is today? Today is the 9th. Of June. All right, calling it done. Calling it done. I have to go to work. Can't play with you people anymore. So let's see if I can show you how it turned out. It's pretty close. I think it could have been orangier, but I really kind of like the colors on the page. If you could see it without the other goldfish there, you might think, oh, hey, that's a nice looking little goldfish. But even with the goldfish reference, I think it turned out pretty well. I like that one. That was fun. All right, let's get a picture of it from my perspective. And you can see what I saw. There we go. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. You know I look forward to this every morning because this is, like I said, my daily art practice. It may be all the art that I get to do in a day. Sometimes I get to do a lot of art in a day, and sometimes I don't get to do very much, but I at least get to do this, and I at least get to do it with you because you're my art buddies. We hold each other accountable. If you follow along, if you play, there's a reference photo on my YouTube channel. There's a post section. I always post a reference picture there. There's a link in the description below and in the chat. I would love to see what you did. If you do it, send it to email at blade@artisticbiker.com because I'd love to see it. But again, thank you for joining me. Be sure and tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow, Girl 2 has already pulled the next object, so we can get a sneak peek of what it is. I have to know because I have to start researching it today. It's a spotted dolphin. Oh, where's the camera? There's the camera. It's a spotted dolphin. So today I will learn everything I can about spotted dolphins, and we'll talk about those tomorrow. So be sure and tune in tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because that is how we know the lag has caught up to the stream, and we can make sure that I'm not going to get cut off in mid-sentence, and you're not going to miss anything vital like the shading or tomorrow's deal. But just as soon as somebody sees me dancing, then I can stop, and I will know. I think sometimes they just like to let me dance because it's funny to watch a fat man